This is like super exciting, but it's kind of bittersweet at the same time because you want to move on. I want to be teaching, and I don't want to be doing schoolwork anymore. But at the same time, we don't want to leave like the college life and being with our friends. From the dangerous birth of the twins that saw them join together for life, to the many medical and societal challenges they had to overcome as they went through life, here are the horrible things that have happened to Abby and Brittany, the Hensel twins. For many years, Abby and Brittany Hensel, also known as the Hensel twins, have had to deal with a ton of challenges due to their condition. Although they have had to walk in and out of the doctors for many years, they have been a beacon of hope to other conjoined twins in every corner of the planet. With that in mind, we can see how their family, friends, and fans all over the world have real cause for worry when the girls began to complain, just as they were getting ready to complete their last year at Bethel University. What implications did this have towards their studies to become teachers? And how will it set the pace for them as they set off on their careers as educators in the future? What is the cause of this worrying malady? It must have really been demoralizing, especially as the Hensel girls must have been looking forward to hanging out with friends while dreaming of what the future had for both girls. It must have been extra worrying for the girls, especially as one of them seemed to experience this sensation before the other. In order to let her family members and the medical experts know what she was dealing with, she had to point out her stomach. As she was dealing with the discomfort caused by this sensation, everyone began to worry some more when the other sister reported that she too was feeling a certain sensation within her stomach. As much as this was worrying for those monitoring the health status of the girls, it did provide some sort of fascination as they saw how this represented some sort of individuality in the girls that pretty much had to share the same body. As fascinating as this must have been for the doctors observing the girls, they had to snap right back to reality when the girls explained that the pain and discomfort was getting even worse. With that in mind, they did all they could to make sure that the girl would stop feeling this troubling pain as soon as possible. After all, they have already had to deal with so much as they were born as conjoined twins. With that, they have the burden of sharing their lives within one single body. As you can imagine, this must be one of the most challenging experiences ever faced by anyone or people who have to endure the journey of life. With that in mind, it must have been at least a wee bit discouraging for them to have to deal with this brand new medical problem. You cannot blame them for being worried. After all, this could be something that could make their lives even more difficult than it is already. The process of their ability to come together is fascinating for me as a primary care doctor because above the waist they seem to function independently, and yet they can clap even though one controls one arm and the other controls the other. As it is, their lives were uncertain, but this added another element of worry to their lives as they faced the unknown. As such, we can all see how this medical problem marked an important point in the lives of the girls. With that in mind, this also added another element of fascination when it came to the lives of these girls. To be honest, we can't really be surprised about this. After all, there's a reason the girls have been subject to a good number of documentaries. People just seem to be so fascinated by the girls and their condition that they may just want to know how the girls are able to get through their everyday lives. Despite this attention, the girls have always been able to muster the gumption to get through the challenges one would face in this life. Our stomach, if we're in a swimsuit or whatever, but if you touch my stomach, I can be a totally different temperature than Brittany would be. It's so weird. And our hands, sometimes, not right now, but a lot of times our hands are different temperatures, so I get super hot way faster. The girl's journey, thinking about said metal to get through the challenges of life. That may be one of the other reasons people may feel so drawn to the girls. That said, we may find that people have been fascinated with the plight of these girls from the very day that they were born. As such, It must have been difficult for them to live through all this attention, especially as they were faced with many of the serious health concerns that could emerge due to the condition of their birth. Maybe it was because, from the moment they were born, many, even the doctors in attendance, were uncertain of the girls' survival. Even if they were going to live through the first few months of their lives, many medical experts were so fascinated by the girls that they actually needed to know what the future would look like for them. There is also the other factor in that many also believe that they had the right to worry, especially as they may unwittingly allow the wrong people into their lives, people who may not fully understand what they were seeing when they met the girls. Luckily, Patty and Mike, the girls' parents, were always on hand to make sure that the girls grew up in an environment that made them feel as normal as possible. This was done in a way that helped the girls focus on the positives rather than wallow in the negatives. This was done in a bid to give the girls lives that were filled with as much love and opportunities as they could muster. They were so determined to achieve this that they would go through to any lengths to pull this off. Part of making sure that the girls would live this normal life, the girls had to sacrifice their time in the sense that they had to make sure they made those regular visits to the doctors. That was the only way these medical professionals could track the progress the girls were making as they grew up. This meant that they were there paying full attention as the girls went through the several stages of life. Sure, the girls may have started walking and talking a bit later than others, but the family and the medical experts were happy to celebrate these landmark moments when they finally achieved them. So he put her in nasal court. Nasal court, surfer. And how'd that go for you? I thought it was good until we got a satisfaction. Aside from achieving these landmark moments in their lives, these trials and tribulations also helped the girls and their circle develop a powerful bond as time went on. Maybe this is why, despite how many challenges they would have to face just to have normal lives, the work seemed to pay off as the girls eventually grew into healthy adults who were capable of living their own lives. This again must have been thanks to their parents, who did all they could to make sure Abby and Brittany got the best medical care while attending school with their kids their age. This proved to be great for the girls, as they were able to find their place in their society. Indeed, it appeared as though the girls did so well in their social lives that they were able to make a ton of friends while they were growing up. They were also able to develop a passion for life that seemed to inspire all who would come across them over the years, be it their close family and friend circle, or those fans who grew to admire them while watching from different parts of the world. As difficult as this may have seemed for those working, this isn't even the most difficult part of it all. As the girls took part in school activities while taking care of their health, they would prove to be popular with their classmates. They proved to fit in so well that even those who were naturally curious about the girls' condition and how they dealt with it during their daily lives, they were always met with kindness and respect. As such, not only were they able to take part in many school events, so much so that they seemed to surpass the expectations of many. By taking part in many sporting events such as softball, they were also able to make lifelong friends as they took part in many of the social events held by their peers in school. With time, their fascinating lives made them popular. Not only were they known by those in their town, they were also a worldwide sensation thanks to the fact that they appeared in many TV shows and documentaries. Despite this growing rate of fame and popularity, their parents always made sure that they were on hand to see that people addressed them as two different individuals with their own peculiarities and sensitivities, thereby highlighting their individuality. Sure, they shared one body, but they were definitely two different people. Don't take our word for it. Take the word of the girls themselves and those who grew to know them over the years. One of the girls is known for her energetic nature and has proven to be quite popular thanks to the fact that she loves sports. Although just as popular as her sister, the other seemed to be more inclined towards creative activities. Despite such differences, the girls learned that they would have to work together, perhaps for much of the course of their lives. This wasn't just some sort of thing where you have to love your sister because she is your sister. This had to do with the fact that they both controlled one side of their bodies, and if they were going to do anything from walking to driving, they had to learn how to work together. This meant that as the years went by, they had to develop the teamwork that would help them carry out daily tasks, such as getting dressed, eating, or even writing. Does this mean that the girls are ambidextrous, together forever? Either way, as the Hensel twins grew older, they would find that they would have to deal with their medical problems that were incidental to their medical condition. This saw that the girls would have to go under the knife several times just to make sure they stay in good health. Thankfully, they were working with dedicated doctors and medical professionals who were eager to do the procedures and checkups that made sure they stayed ahead of anything that could make their lives even more difficult than it was. As difficult, and perhaps heartbreaking as this may sound, the countless visits to the doctors was not the hardest part of the ordeal. Perhaps if you ask them, they would tell you that living within such close proximity with one another had also come with its own issues. They had to work together so that they could deal with the strange feelings that may develop as they interact with each other over time. This may have been super tough sometimes, especially as their condition may have eradicated any sense of privacy that the girls may have hoped to have. But somehow this constant presence in each other's life worked in their favor because it seemed to help their bond grow even stronger. As if that wasn't great enough, the closeness with one another also helped the girls to develop that thick skin that would help them go through many of the challenges of life. As strange as it may seem, they may even take some sort of solace in the fact that, at least, they have one another to rely on. This togetherness eventually saw them walk through the doors of Bethel University as they set out to get their hands on that teaching degree. As they pursued a teaching degree, the girls were excited about their college experience because it saw them take the social aspect of college life. As a result, they were able to power through college with excellent academic records. This gave them a taste of the fact that although they had to endure many challenges due to their physical condition, they actually had what it takes to live full and meaningful lives as independent women. As a result, the pair would eventually graduate and become preschool teachers, despite the medical problems that they would have to endure in the final days of their college careers. This was great, because this proved to be a job they loved. After all, this would allow them to help each other, just like many had helped them when they were growing up. Opportunities up there in Minnesota. Are there a lot of teachers? No, there's no teachers. No jobs right now. Would you really, in your heart, consider moving down here? Think you could handle the heat? Yeah, I'll just sit in the sun. As impressive as this was, the girls proved to be something of a symbol to the world, because they represented the fact that people had worth despite their physical appearance. It also helped them highlight their unique qualities while also striving to mark out their individuality as women who had dreams to find their individual places in this world of ours. Well, now that they had left the walls of college to find their way into the classroom, these girls were shining brightly as they took on the challenges each day brought them with courage and joy. Classroom leaders. As we alluded to moments back, the girls would graduate from Bethel University before finding their way to a preschool where they would both teach in the same classroom. This proved to be the perfect job for both their personalities, if you can believe such luck. With one girl's more lively and outgoing personality coming to the fore, she was able to lead the class with her talent for explaining tricky and perhaps more complicated parts of the curriculum to the kids. With this skill, she was able to help the kids understand up to the point where they could advance in their studies. At the same time, the other twins' calmness and gentleness made her develop into one of the most popular teachers in the teachers' faculty. With such personalities working hand in hand with each other, it took little time for them to develop into a great teaching team. Then again, we can't really be surprised. especially as they had been working together for many years before they even walked into the walls of this school. Whatever the case may be, the girls were able to work in tandem to build one of the best classes ever in the school. With the more energetic teacher working in order to grab the kids' attention during the lesson, the kids would have the benefit of having the presence of the other sister to keep things as calm as possible, while her sister creates this venue of creativity and learning for their students. We got a job. What do we need in this classroom? I am nervous. This is a huge transition now, like, we're in the workroom. How are you guys? Definitely our favorite teacher in high school. There's no safety net. As such, they were able to teach their students subjects such as science and maths. They were also on hand to teach the kids social skills, such as respect, hard work, and of course, teamwork. Such a balanced way of teaching proved to be quite effective, as while they helped the kids develop their academic know-how, they also made sure they were helping us cultivate people with a sense of community within and outside the classroom. As you can imagine, this was not an easy job. Working with toddlers is never an easy job. Add the fact that the Hensel twins now had to stand for hours while getting through the day's classes was not easy. Despite such difficulties, they were always happy that they found something that they love. After all, not only were they watching kids the academic aspects of school, they were also making sure that they were shaping the values and characters of their students. That is a service that goes underappreciated by many in our society today. But thankfully, we have the Hensel twins to help us out with that, role models. With that in mind, we must also note that many people eventually came to terms with exactly what the girls were. Initially, people were only fascinated by the girls' physical form. However, they soon looked past that to recognize the positive influence the girls had first as students, now as teachers of their own students. In turn, they also noticed that despite having to share one body, they are fully dedicated to living happy lives full of love and purpose. That said, they still weren't totally able to evade the peering eyes of those who didn't fully understand who they were. As such, as their lives became more and more public, they found that they had to deal with personal questions in respect of if they were in any relationships and if they had any plans to start families of their own. The physiology of a body is very complex, especially when it comes to female reproduction. It's not simply organs, but it's regulated by several centers in the brain. We have two brains that we're working with that have to regulate the ability to have a child. Interestingly enough, rather than avoiding having to deal with such a topic, they actually answered these questions openly and honestly. It must be said that they displayed an incomparable level of openness and bravery as they willingly shared the personal details of their lives. In turn, this approach helped even more people understand the girls and the challenges they had to face during their journey through life. Again, one can see how many would be fascinated with their journey, so much so that they are still featured in TV shows and documentaries. This is how the girls have remained as examples of both joy and strength, despite rather unfavorable circumstances. They also showed that they were able to overcome the part of their personalities that made them appear to be much more than two girls stuck in one body. As teachers and role models, they were able to show that you are more than what defines you, even if it is one of the most unique physical conditions in the world. Perfect example of how to overcome challenges. With that in mind, we are reminded every day by the girls that they would not be who they were without their family, friends, and their large support network. The girls' journey and the part played by those around them shows how many of us would thrive if we had the right support system. Many may find that the girls are always eager to return this favor given to them to the rest of society. As such, many are not surprised to find them always hard at work teaching others how to make the world a better place. Part of this work is based on showing the world what it's like to go through life as a pair of conjoined twins just like them. It also showed the world exactly what people like them could achieve if they are in the right place. In the end, their tale is one which shows us what determination, support, and goals can do to help us develop as contributing people to society. That being said, we must state that despite the advantages that the girls may have, they will still have to get through life as conjoined twins. Undoubtedly, their support system hasn't taken away all the difficulties that they've had to face. Thankfully, though, they have each other to count on as they face said challenges. Thankfully, they have proven to be so formidable in the face of these challenges that they have emerged as one of the best advocates for accepting one's disabilities or physical limitations. This means that they have had to keep morale up despite going through some of the toughest medical challenges out there. As rare as their condition may be, they have overcome the fact that their condition is one that only occurs in about 1 in 50,000 to 200,000 births. Their mere survival to adulthood shows that they have been resilient in the face of these challenges, and many who have been born like this rarely survive long after their birth. This is due to the complicated nature of their birth, so much so that they were even lucky to be joined at the points that they were joined. Sure, they had a better chance of survival than some other conjoined twins, but they survived up to the point where they have stood out as shining examples, as those who overcome the challenges they face in life. We wanted to do this documentary so people wouldn't have to always stare and take pictures, because we don't like when they take pictures, so they just knew who we are and stuff. From being born with a condition that many others succumb to before they live through their adulthood, to having to deal with the challenges of being one of the most unique set of twins that you may be able to find out there, let's take a look at the lives of the Hensel conjoined twins and how they may not be who you think they are. Looking at the lives of Abby and Brittany Hensel, one can only imagine what they are going through as they do their best to live their lives as conjoined twins. It cannot be easy being stuck next to your twin sister for pretty much the entirety of their lives, but somehow they have managed to make it work. That said, there are still quite a few things that we do not know about these brave girls who eventually grew up to have fulfilling lives. From the complexities of having to share one body with your sister to the many risks they face as they attempt to go through life in their condition, the twins have lived lives that are worthy of admiration. Let's take a deep look at the shocking yet heartwarming nature of the lives of Abby and Brittany Hensel, the conjoined twins, facing the challenge of life as conjoined twins. From the very day that they were born, Abby and Brittany have captured the imagination of the entire planet. This is due to the fact that they are conjoined twins, something that is believed to occur only once in almost 200,000 births. When the doctors came and talked with us, they told us that they each have a heart, that they each have a set of lungs, that they each have a stomach. From the stomach comes a small intestine. They each have that, which joins into the large intestine, and then they have just one bladder and the female organs. With such slim odds of even existing, it is no wonder that they have been the subjects of much fascination, so much so that they have inspired countless documentaries and TV shows throughout the course of their lifetime. Add the captivating dichotomy of the nature of the girl's personality, and you'd find that tons of viewers were eager to keep themselves hooked onto the story of these brave little girls as they grew to adults who would give this life thing a good go. You may even find that as they grew older, the fascination in them hasn't waned one bit, with people even more eager now than ever to know how the girls have been able to navigate their way through life now that they are in their adulthood. Watching them, these viewers saw that they seemed to be the prime example of resilience and individuality that may inspire many others who may find themselves in similarly challenging positions. Who could blame such people for finding inspiration in the Hensel sisters? Again, we must point out how rare their birth is. The fact that they are dicephalic parapagous twins makes them even more special, because aside from the fact that this means that they have two heads on one body, analysis of the Hensel sisters showed that their body is actually quite symmetrical. This analysis showed that each girl had her own heart, stomach, lungs, spinal cord, and other major organs. Interesting, right? At some point in time, there was a third structure, but it seemed to have been removed so that the girls could be comfortable with the single broad rib cage that they shared. They are very, very different. Abby is, I would say, a little more outgoing. I really appreciate her assertiveness and her demand to know more and to ask more questions. What may be more interesting about the girls is their wide pelvis, which helps them manipulate the two legs that they share. This is very important because the girls had to learn to work in tandem so that they could synchronize their walking efforts. The girls were lucky enough in the sense that they have been able to work on this from a very young age, making it a bit easier for them to perfect this skill that they would definitely need as they grew older. They may have their parents to thank for this, especially as they had no idea that they would be giving birth to conjoined twins. First time I seen them, just didn't take but a second to fall in love with them. What are you going to do? They're both your kids. It was only after the girls were delivered that their mother even understood what she had before her. However, after overcoming the joy of delivering her children, then the surprise and shock that followed, the Hensels geared themselves up for the future that the girls would have to face living as they were. The first step that was involved in making sure that the girls could grow up to be as healthy as they could be was to find the doctors that could maybe separate them. After some analysis and some hard thoughts, the Hensels realized that it may be safest for the girls to remain together as they are. It was just too risky to put them under the knife in order to separate them, especially as they shared some really important organs within that one body. Once they came to this conclusion, it was decided that it was best to support the girls as best as possible. This could mean focusing on giving them the necessary health and medical attention required so that they could remain as strong and as healthy as possible. This meant that in the early years of the girls' lives, they always received a ton of attention from their doctors. This team of medical experts were always on call to help the girls deal with any complex medical problems that they may have had to endure at any point in time. This may sound much, but this attention was of the utmost importance because there were just too many health risks involved in living as a pair of conjoined twins. The serious and unpredictable nature of some of the maladies that such people faced simply meant that they would need to be under the constant care and observation of those hoping to keep them as healthy as possible. As alarming as the medical concerns could be, this didn't seem to be the worst part of the experience for the girls. As time went on, people began to realize how difficult it may be for them to manage their daily lives, especially as they grew older. No, we never wish we were separated because then we wouldn't get to do all the things that we can do, play softball and meet new people. We wouldn't have been able to do that. Despite such fears, the Hensels decided that it was best to face their fears and live their lives as best as they could. As such, people found that the girls proved to be more suitable for life than they ever thought. Sure, they had to work together to do even the simplest of things, but it was clear that these girls had what it took to make it. They were going to find ways to do many things that people thought they couldn't do. Sure, it looked as though they would never make it at some point, but it was clear that the girls had the will to live and live well. With such an attitude towards life and the support of their family, it should come as no surprise that the girls grew from strength to strength as time went on. They were lucky enough to be nurtured and supported by people that were willing to help out even during the toughest of times. We're talking about the early days when the girls had to endure countless visits to the doctor as they searched for a healthier future for themselves. It was during this time that the girls learned even more about their bodies. With Abby on the left side and Brittany on the right, the pair have had to work together to make things work. This means that they had to work together to develop the coordination that would help them work in sync with one another as they took on even the most mundane of tasks. As we watch them take on these tasks with such a high level of coordination, it really shows how much teamwork they have been able to achieve during their lifetimes. Individuality. Despite these medical and physical challenges, the girls have proven to be among the most resilient of people out there. As we all watch their journey through life, we have seen how they have been able to develop their individuality despite having to share a body. You'd find that not only have they been able to develop a strong sense of self-esteem, they have also been able to develop their very own personalities. This may have been due to the help of their parents, who encouraged them to develop their own sense of personality ever since they were little girls. As a result, you'd find that one of the girls seems to be more serious than the other, or that one may be more into science than the other. You can clearly see that one is more artsy and more laid back than the other, while the other seems to be more detail-oriented. Looking at the dichotomy of the girls' personalities, it is clear that the girls have been able to come together to work with one another, despite the fact that they do not have some sort of hive mentality. It even bodes well for them that they do not seem to be too similar to each other, as such differences may be the tools that they need to navigate their way through a life that may already be difficult enough for them. Thankfully, they had the nurturing environment that would help them develop into the individuals they are. 2. Different girls living one life. Looking at the situation, their differences do go a bit further than their personalities. For starters, one can spot the different ways in which they share their body. While Abby on the left seems to have a head that tilts about 5 inches to the right, Brittany seems to tilt about 15 degrees to the left. This has had the effect of making Brittany look shorter than her sister. Add the fact that she also seemed to have a leg that was about 2 inches shorter than Abby, and you may claim that she may indeed be the shorter of the two. But this was brought to an end when the doctors put them under the knife so that Abby would stop growing at the age of 12. This was not the only surgical operation that they had at the time. To address other issues, such as breathing problems, the girls also went under the knife so that they could adjust their spines and expand their chest. The girls also had to work on the fact that they controlled one side of their body each. This meant that despite a childhood of fun and laughter, they also had to endure a ton of challenges as they grew familiar with this body. It's fine, don't touch it. Believe me, we are totally different people. Abby is more into pink and girly and preppy, and Brittany is more not into pink. Thankfully, they were able to develop a strong bond that would just be as strong, if not stronger, than the abilities that they would develop as they grew older. Sure, this body will be tested, but that is just natural for siblings as they grow. They were going to need to keep that bond strong and functional if they were ever able to conquer their body. For starters, the girls knew they had to work together if they were ever going to learn to work. Considering the fact that they each controlled a leg, this was more difficult than we think. Thankfully, they had the bond to make it work till this very day. This was important because this ability to bond and work in tandem would play out when they performed other tasks, such as learning to swim and even play with others. Some may say that they have their dad to thank for this. Thanks to Mike, the girls seemed to have their very own cheerleader who was waiting for them in everything that they did. Aside from helping the girls boost their morale, he also acted as some sort of inventor, as he always seemed to come up with some special equipment that would help his daughters face whatever life threw at them. That is why he was the one to make a bike with extra bike handles for the girls. He would also go on to add extra pedals and other things that would make the girls' life a lot easier. All we can say is thanks, Mom and Dad, because without them, we're not sure that the Hensel twins would have been able to learn how to work together. Thanks to the parents, the kids were able to do anything that required cooperation, be it brushing their teeth, tying their shoelaces, or getting dressed as a whole. Perhaps they were able to develop the bond to get through such tasks, and the skills to boot because they always seemed to approach these tasks with a sense of humor. At the very least, it seemed to take the stress out of the situation for all involved. And as such, you may find that his attitude has served to be some sort of inspiration to those going through difficult times. Don't take our word for it. Take the words of Mike and Patty Hensel into consideration. Brittany, easygoing, easy to talk to, but is finding out that she's got a mind of her own also. They were the ones who told us that many families had written to them, telling them about how they looked to the girls as inspiration to get through their own difficult lives. Thanks to their desire to give their girls lives that were as normal as possible, it looks as though they may have helped the lives of countless people. Looking at them, you could consider them to be symbols of strength, especially as they were able to survive outside their home. They saw that they had enough personality and self-esteem to make friends, so much so that they were known to be positive, friendly, and outgoing. Heck, they even enjoyed taking part in physical activities, such as going to the mall, hanging out, and attending sleepovers and birthday parties. They were even seen enjoying games of softball and volleyball with their peers. You'd find that even their friends soon got used to the girls' unique circumstances, and as such, they were always keen to make sure that the girls didn't feel left out from anything they were doing. Looking at how things were going, it actually didn't take long for the girls to become part of the group as they grew older. Alas, their outgoing nature did come with some consequences. The more they went out and tried to live their lives for themselves, they found that they caught the unwanted attention of some of the people who came across them. They found that when they went out, they would come across people who would stare at them uncomfortably. Some would even ask them strange questions with others, even having the nerve to make rude comments about them. Unfortunately, such is the nature of the challenges that some people go through life. But fortunately, the girls were able to brush such experiences off. They were lucky to have parents who had instilled the ability for them to be sure of themselves, despite their condition. As such, they were able to take such experiences on the chin as they went through life, growing up with dreams and aspirations like any other young person. Life as grown-ups. As they overcame the challenges of growing up, the girls also found that they would soon have to pick careers of their own. If they were going to live full, active lives, they were not going to let their condition limit them. Thankfully, they saw them develop a love for learning and add that to their outgoing nature. They saw that they would be able to live fulfilling lives when they left their parents' homes. As they grew up, the girls found that they actually loved the school environment. Not only did school life seem integral for their development and how they learned to make their way through life, education also seemed to be something that was taken rather seriously in the Hensel household. Their parents wanted to make sure that the girls would have the same opportunity to learn just like any other child in their neighborhood. As such, this meant that the girls attended public schools just like their peers. Thanks to this push, the girls were able to develop the outgoing personalities that would see them thrive as they grew older. Sure, this would not be an easy feat for the kids to pull off, especially with the circumstances that they found themselves in. But with the help of their teachers and their fellow students, life at school didn't seem too bad at all. In fact, they actually did well with their academic work. They were also known to have fun when taking part in sporting activities, such as the previously mentioned games of baseball and volleyball. Not only that, but they were also keen to take part in some of the many social and club activities offered by their school, making them look like some of the most all-round students that you'd find out there. Looking at how they took on these challenges of school life, it should come as no surprise that they became inspirations to many watching them from all corners of the planet. For example, when they got into sporting activities, many realized that their display of coordination and determination made them feel as though they could also handle any challenges that came their way. Besides this, sports gave them a form to socialize with their peers. They even stood out here because they seemed to motivate their peers to perform as best as they could. We could also add that sports gave them the perfect medium to exercise their body, making them stronger and faster as they grow older. This would no doubt make their body more suited to handle their needs as they advanced in age. It would be remiss of us to skip on the fact that they also took part in other activities such as playing the piano. This was a great feat because remember, they had to work together. With Abby on the right and Brittany on the left, the coordination they displayed to play the piano together is simply extraordinary, if you can pardon the contradiction. As time went on, it was almost as if this was how they were meant to be. When asked, the pair once stated that if they were separated from one another, they weren't sure that they would enjoy the activities they loved taking part in as much as they do now. Who knows how playing softball or playing the piano would feel to them if they were separated from each other now. This must have been why their ambitions seemed to sink as they grew older. Perhaps it was also the fact that they realized that they would have to work together to make their careers work. But over time, they realized that they had a shared desire to have a meaningful career. Thankfully, they had done a lot of good work while they were still in high school, and as such, it seemed as though they were ready for the next big step: college. Once they were able to overcome the challenge of their driving test and getting a license, they focused their attention on their chosen career, teaching. This means that they would go on to attain their teaching degrees from Bethel University in 2012. Following this, they would go on to teach 4th and 5th graders in elementary school. Sure, this means that they would have to share the same salary for some time, but with any luck, that will change. For now, it seems as though they are enjoying the time that they had with their students. Incredibly, most of the students wanted them there. At least that is what the survey carried out by the school body says. Now fully accepted by these kids, it is clear that their condition is of no importance to the kids. With the support of the student and teacher faculty, they have been able to leave a lasting impact on all within such a school. Now that they have settled with fulfilling careers, there is every chance that these girls will be able to live their lives to the fullest. From being born with a condition that many others succumb to before they live through their adulthood, to having to deal with the challenges of being one of the most unique set of twins that you may be able to find out there, let's take a look at the lives of the Hensel conjoined twins and how they may not be who you think they are.